Okay, page Reish or Ois Vav. And he's explaining the Indian of Rotzu, really, Rotzu V'shuv, and stated that the whole any Amshacha, where there's this disparate, there's a gulf between Elyon and Tachten. So fundamentally, why would there be Amshacha? Is an Amshacha because somehow the Tachten touches the Elyon. When it's Ilava Olo, so the Tachten is born from the Elyon. The Elyon contains the Tachten in potential, and it emerges. Seichel Amidus, and the whole process of the Esesvidus are an integrated, evolving system. But we're not talking about an integrated, evolving system. Here we're talking about Amshacha, which is beyond Ishtalshalos, relatively speaking. It's all relative as he addresses it on several levels now. So the Amshacha is and happens because somehow, and this has to be explained here, the Elyon is affected by the Tachten. That's the Rotzoi. That's why the Rotzoi is so integral. Okay, then we will revisit Adalto Pnei Zoken and all the various Amshachas, Cyrus or not, that were mentioned earlier. So let's now just focus on this. Really, you say this the Gideonian. So he starts off explaining all of this with a pasuk in Mishlei, which talks about this very interplay, this very dynamic. So the two Adams here are Adam Elyon and Adam Atachten. That's relative. Adam Elyon, Adam Atachten, in its first model is Atzilus and Bia in creation. And as we'll see, there's the same Inyan, higher still, and even Lifnei Atzimtzum. So the Adam Elyon is summoned forth because of the face that the Adam Atachten places in the water. That's the marshal here. That the water reflects the face that's placed before it. So too, Leva Adam La Adam. So this marshal, this profound marshal that the Chassidus now reveals, the marshal of the water. Again, the simple meaning of the pasuk is that the human heart responds to the human heart. In Yiddish, our hearts fill the hearts. Like water reflects, as natural as water reflects the image placed before it. That's the simple meaning. The deeper meaning, as you're hearing now, is Adam Elyon and Adam Atachten, and Dafka, the marshal of water. Why the marshal of Mayim? Because the image that's in the Mayim, on the one hand, is not nicken, not acquired by the water, not even temporarily. On the other hand, it's nothing but the water. There's nothing else but the water itself. So as in the words of the Maimon, there's no two separate faces here. There's no two separate faces. The face of the person that is looking at the facing the water, and the face of the water. Because what's seen in the water, that is the panim of the Adam, not something else. That is his face. And secondly, what I just said, which I said first, is that the image is not something separate from the water, not even created by the water, not acquired by the water, not even temporarily. It's batul betachlis. There's nothing but the water itself. Nothing has changed. Behind that's what we're up to. So we're up to by the number 51. Number 51 in the text. You may not have the same numbers of Marim Akemis and Ha'oris, but maybe one off, but probably not. Yeah, 51. Behind, what is the Behind? This morning we need a double, triple dosage of coffee, of water. Sorry for the ones fasting. Yeah. The image that's in the water is unlike another water model, which is the fish. Now, the person immerses in the ocean, and there's a fish touching him. If the immersion, if the tefillah is kosher, there's a day in the Mishnah of Shimon by Acharei, if I'm not mistaken. Not of Shimon Gamliel. That they're not chaytzis, they're not something other than the water. They're created by the water. So there's a tremendous bittul therefore between the fish and the water. There's a day that they're separate. Even though they are created by and sustained by the water, there's something else in the water. There's the water, and then there's the oceanic creatures. There are entities that are inseparable, bound up with the water. When they're removed from the water, they die right away. So much so that according to Shammai, right, they're considered dead even when they're alive once they're removed from the water. Koyach and Peil. Sankin Hillel they have to actually expire. But at any rate, we're saying the mashal here is not like that. But to put here this mashal, the water is not creating or sustaining anything. There's no existence, not even from the water. But the water alone. So what's the point of the mashal? So the posek is saying that likewise the heart of the Adam to the Adam alien responds to the Adam ha'tachton. This is the rotzoi. The rotzoi is the image that's placed before the water, the longing to connect. Haino the rotzoi. Shepulas advedis Adam lamata binyan harotzoi. What is the pull of the person? The rotzoi is the oyer esamshoch and the Adam alien shalakisei. It's the response of the Adam alien. What's that? In the first model, it's Zod Atzilus. So how is it? It's similar to the model of the image of the person that appears in the water. So the first point we said was that the image is in the water is absolutely faithful, nothing other, and it is nothing other than the face. So the hamshacha is a response. The hamshacha is, friends, the image in the water, and it is according to the rotzoi of the one who desires. It's his image that's there. Now, so further in the details of the mashal, that it's in the water, because that's a mashal for Atzilus. Because Atzilus is completely incomparable to Biyah. Atzilus belongs to Eilam Ein Sof, and Biyah is already creation. As he says in brackets, it's not actual it's not actual otherness in the simple sense, but it's the scholiness in the smokim. It begins and allows for otherness. Bria. So that's Metzius. Metzius already. Metzius means definition. Metzius means definition. And Atzilus is higher than definition. Therefore, the mashal is water. So Atzilus, which is Shlei Be'erech, is analogous to water. Shem Pshutim, which are simple. Ve'ein lehem gavon v'tzir. There's no form to the water, and there's no color. And therefore, the face that appears there can be reflected in it, because there's no resistance in this sense, because there's no tzir that's already there that precludes another tzir. Okay, we need much more explanation. But what do we have so far? What has he told us so far in this ois? He's told us that the holding of Amshocha, again, when it's an inyan which is ben adoich, needs a rotzoi. And the model is Kemayim Ponim El Ponim. The alien relative to the Tachten is like water, it's poshut. There's no color. The matter in our moshel here is Bria, is us, is the Leva Odom, the matter. And the Rotzoi is the desire to connect and be one with the Odom alien. And the last point he said was that his image appears there faithfully and absolutely, dafke, because the Odom alien has no tzir relative to the Odom Tacht. Which means on a very simple level that the only way to get somebody else, to really get them, their true empathy is putting self aside. If I'm listening to you, but filtering you through my limitations, my experience, I'm not really hearing you, which is why listening to somebody is very difficult. And the emes is the only one that can really hear us. The emes is a tzaddik, is someone who's bottle, is a Rebbe. A Rebbe is the only one that emes can hear. Everybody else, as we're listening to our fellow, to everybody, it's we're trying to get you. Hope I get you.
Perhaps that's the reason he gives the mashal of Mayim, because Mayim is compared to Chachma, and Chachma is Bittul, and the only way to elicit a true connection with the person who's speaking to you is if you're totally
So you
transparent.
Yeah, well, Chachma dominates Atzilus. We just gave another label. Here we have a Hasbara. The Mayim itself is the Hasbara, is the Marshal, because the Mayim itself, in its transparency, therefore, the Ponim is impression there. Now, this
Rabbi, by saying constantly like you're doing, it's wonderful, because what you're describing is ineffable, but feeling the sigh, the pain of someone else, like the Rebbe does, or feeling the joy of someone else that doesn't even describe, just like feeling, it's beyond the language that we would use for a blueprint, for example, would be wrong, but the description that you're giving with regard to what is happening at the Atzilus level is the ineffable, that which within God, that which is potential is, but that which is potential in us is not. And that's why it's already, even if it's the thought of God and in the thought of the tzaddik, that he recognizes it's not even a thought, it's the soul that is only able to be able to have an understanding of the penetration of another sort of another heart, that you just, as you put it, you are able to put forward the ineffable into language for us to understand. It is as if, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, this is it. This is what the Bible, this is what Chassidus does. Chassidus articulates that which is be'emes beyond articulation. Yeah, that's the I won't use the word miracle, but that's koyach atzmos, that this is possible and that we can learn it and entertain it. Yeah. So thank you. So this is a marshal, not a marshal. Yeah, the marshal of Mayim. But the marshal of Mayim, first he explains it, the Gabi Biyan Atzilus. Now higher still, because it doesn't start with Atzilus and Biyah, the Amshocha of the alien to the Tachten, where they are incomparable. Now comes, friends, now Mamash, the Rebbe takes us to Mamash to Atzmos and articulates the ineffable, as you say, and how the Rotzen of Dirbe Tachtoinim emerges. Now the emes is that mitzad atzmos, you can fill it out already, Ronnie. Mitzad atzmos, it doesn't have to be any system whatsoever. There's no discussion. But the whole kavan of Dira B'Tachtonim is integral to Dira B'Tachtonim is a relationship with Hashem. That's what it means. And that means to understand and to connect with every level that makes up the Tachten. And that's a mind and a heart and so on. And so therefore, the Eibishter, that's all part of the kavanah, gives rise to the whole kavanah of Dira B'Tachtonim in such a way that we can quote unquote understand, because he wants us to be privy so intimately with him. So he gives rise to this whole process of this intimate levels and process by which it all happens. So we're being taken there, friends, there now. We got to get this straight, the geography. We're talking about the geography in the most intimate level. Not Ishtalshlas, talking about Lifnei Tzimtzum. So even before, what's our Rotzen? The Rotzen is the articulated will for Eilumus to be a Melech. That doesn't come in a vacuum. The desire to be Melech. So even before the Aliyas HaRotzen of Ano Emloich, that I want to have Melech, Dira B'Tachtonim, a relationship down here. It's from there that Acharei Tzimtzum the Hamshacha begins. Once there's a Rotzen for Dira B'Tachtonim, then the whole process begins thereafter. And now we're going to Lifnei Aliyas HaRotzen. And moreover, these words, means, sorry, he means to say something else primarily, or maybe exclusively, that the kavanah is that after the tzimtzum and the whole process of Helem and so on, and the Tachten, what should be revealed there? Lifnei tzimtzum, the Eibishter himself. It's from there, meaning the Lifnei Aliyas HaRotzen, that has to be drawn down into creation through our Torah mitzvahs. That's how the Dira happens, through our Vayidaber. So, how does Olam Shacha begin, and what causes it? Again, the formula here is the formula. The opening words of Vayidaber. Klolos inyan hamshachim l'mayla l'mata u'beprat. When Hamshach has to be through Parsois and Tzimtzumim, why? Because we're drawing on that which is radically beyond our station, has to be through a Rotzim l'mata l'mayla. So what is the Rotzoi here? What's the Rotzoi of Lifnei Tzimtzum? There's no creation. Who's longing? Who's placing the image before the water? He continues, man minei ubei. Man means mayim nukvim. Mayim nukvim means feminine waters. That's the makabel. That's the desire. Color. The word color, friends, actually means meloshen vaychulu kolsa, longing. Longing. She has a longing for a husband. This is integral to her being. It's not integral to him. He can be alone. Varaya, Adam came on the face of the world, and she wasn't there. She came a few minutes later. But a kal is of kol, so that's Allah's man. That's the feminine waters. So Lifnei Tzimtzum, it's minei ubei. This is all within the Eibishter himself. As we'll elaborate, let's just get the language. The Eibishter is, as it were, entertaining the longing that the Tachten will have even before there is a Tachten. And that's what begins the whole process. Let's continue. The Nimlach v'nishmaisem shel tzaddik, a famous medrash, with whom did God consult before he created the world? Nimlach means consulted, with the neshamas of tzaddikim. And that's what, and that means all Yidden, it's the shamas of all Yidden. And that's what then created, that's what stirred the desire of Ano Emlich. That's the Rossi spoke about at the beginning. They articulated, I want to be king, and everything else follows after that. So this is this Minei Ubei within him. As God is entertaining already, projecting, formulating in the divine mind, quote unquote. The Rotzoi, the desire of the Tachten, that's how the whole process begins. And that's encapsulated in these cryptic words, which the Maimon will explain further. With whom did he consult? With Nishmeseim Shal Tzaddik. I just read one more line. Now here, before Kamayim Panim Lapanim was Atzilus and Biyah. Here it's even higher still. Shamayim Im Pshutim Beim B'Mtziyah V'Gavin. So the water is again pure and has no form at all. And the face that appears. It's not something other than the water. This is a deeper explanation of the Moishe. Because this is all summoned, Minei Ubei. The Eibush is conjuring this image within himself. So it's not a mahuz dov b'fnei atzmai. Gam lekedova misava min hamayim. Not, never mind something else. It's not even something made by the water. Elim hamayim atzmam, the tzir that's reflected in the water is the water itself. Is nothing else. It's actually understood further, better, not in the mashal of biyah atzilus, because biyah is already the reality of creation. But lifnei atzilus, where the Eibush conjures the tachten and the tainuk that he will have from within.
The koyach.
V'hainu, right? Eloheim emayim atzmum nasim mitzad pnei hamistakel. They get the brackets here. Let's get the flow, the brackets. And the face there, so the face is because of the one who looks there. But this is, again, conjured by the Eibishter. At this level, we're talking Lifnei HaRotzen. Ein Sof is absolutely divested of any kind of definition, of any kind of certainly desire or want. So how does it happen here? How does this image appear? What does it mean God is entertaining this? We're going to explain this further. So this rotzen is aroused because of consulting with the neshamas of tzaddikim, which we'll say, go ahead, amurshish in atzmos, pnei mistakel, and therefore can happen, as it were, within atzmos. All right, friends, we'll leave this to be continued. Be'ezras Hashem. Chol HaMoed.